Hello, we are live.
Hello. Welcome, Steve. Welcome back to episode 23 of Codified Security. How are you doing today?
I'm doing really good, and you know why? Because we have a sexy new intro. Shall we play it?
Oh, let's play it. 3, 2, 1.
How are we not going to get sued for this?
I cannot possibly imagine where we got the theming for that from. I've no idea.
I don't, yeah. I'm going to cling on to it. So, what do we have? What's our, Matt? Tell the lovely audience what
I certainly will. You join us live or potentially pre-recorded, but that's fine. We won't hold it against you on the 11th of April, 2023. And if I can sum up the tech news in April, if you are watching this back far in the future, it was like a YouTube time capsule. AI and the rise of the AI chatbot is upon us. Everywhere you look, people are registering startup domain names that end in .ai and trying to work out how to use the likes of ChatGPT to create value. We are no exception on that happy little open source train of AI integrations. So we have an AI themed episode. We're going to come at AI from a bunch of different angles, aren't we, Steve?
Indeed we are. A little bit of head-to-head as well.
For sure. And with that, it would be wrong of us not to introduce the Checkov AI man of the hour, well, the Checkov man of the hour generally. But Anton, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
Look at that, fully repping the brand and everything.
Yeah, of course. I actually want to suggest that I think the current ChatGPT doesn't has only like text support, but maybe we can ask like a future ChatGPT to like analyze our intro and tell us where exactly does this beautiful music come from.
It's a mystery. I think it's going to be lost to the scientific questions of time. I certainly don't know where it comes from. So, until we find out, I think we're okay.
Sure.
Exactly. Just don't say it. All right. Is there anything we want to plug before we get going? I know for sure if anyone watching is going to KubeCon, Matt and I will be there. We'll be repping Checkov and open source at the Prisma Cloud booth. I have no idea what the number of our booth is, but
we will come and find us at the Prisma Cloud booth. We will be continuing these kind of conversations. So if you are interested in Checkov open source and all things automating security, then happy to chat, happy to show you our demos, happy to go for a beer and rant and aim security stuff. You choose. So yes, KubeCon will be good. What else we got coming up, Steve? You've got a talk somewhere very further away and special, haven't you?
Yeah, if you're not coming to KubeCon EU because you don't have a budget of whatever to fly and you're in America, I will be foolish enough to fly the 11 hours from Amsterdam to San Francisco to be at both B-sides over the weekend. And then I have a talk on Monday at RSA. So any of these, find me. And let's talk open source. Let's talk infrastructure as code security. Let's talk AI. Speaking of which.
Big round of applause. Not an easy CFP to get on the RSA. No. So congrats.
They are strict. If you didn't know this, they look at every slide and they audit it. Like they change words. They basically clean it all up for you. So it's the most vetting I've ever had at an event. They make you take a course in how to present and how to make slides before they even let you go. Like it's crazy. So yikes. Don't screw it up. That's what I'm telling myself. All right. So should we get on with our first big feature? All right.
I think we should. It seems rude, given the scope of this feature, to not put it first. We'll even save the beer conversation for later. I know. Anton, you have been adding some magical capabilities to Checkov. Why don't you show us those?
Of course. So yeah, as already introduced, so the couple last weeks, everyone was kind of crazy about the new ChatGPT. It's quite funny. That's actually, I think they OpenAI made a really smart move to open their AI models in general to more easier way to consume them. And before you could actually consume it for quite a while, but through an API. And of course, most are not too technically okay. That is still bit hard for some non-technical people to actually use an API or anything like that. So they of course could tune their parts and make them all much better. And even the ChatGPT 3 or 3.5 Turbo, and also the 4 already, you can already hear from the names that it's not the first model. And I think the first one they introduced in 2018 or 19, and probably almost no one talked about it. So we also went ahead and thought about, okay, why not? I mean, it's really great what they did, and it opened up way more possibilities, probably more than they actually thought about. That's mostly if you create a really something new or something which is easily consumable, you will be amazed how people will use it. You will never imagine it before, and then all of a sudden, okay, wow, even I didn't know about it. And from there, of course, you can then better refine your own product afterwards. And of course, they will also do typical way is to have more, how should I say, industry-specific chatbots. I mean, if you think about it, of course, the most obvious ones are health. It's always in health, you have a bit different things you want to ask. Of course, for us as developers, then you have the Copilot X, which is more dedicated for developers itself. So you don't want to ask Copilot X who were the last presidents in the States. You don't care. You just want to know, how do I write this specific code? Can you make it a bit better? Can you refactor it? Whatever. Yeah. So, and of course, then you can also fine tune these models and make them in general more more capable to your needs. And so I gave it a try. As everyone used ChatGPT, saw how to actually access their API. You can of course just use curl, whatever you want to, but they also have a really nice SDK. I think it's both Python and Node, so you can choose. Of course, I always suggest you to use the Python one because I'm a big Python fan, so don't even try the other one. but it's up to you. It's quite neat. It's very easy, so you don't have to do any authentication. You just pass in the API token, and then you're basically set. You can fine tune a bit in the sense of, okay, which kind of model do you want to use? You want to use just GPT-3, or you want to do GPT-3 5 Turbo, and also other things, and what they call temperature, which sounds a bit weird. From my point of view, temperature is just a room temperature, or what I see outside. But for them, temperature is to tell the actual model how creative it should be. So the less temperature it is, the more precise and repetitive it is. The higher the temperature, so highest is 1, 0 is the lowest. If 1, you can basically get the whole time different answers. Yeah, it could be completely wrong. So 0, what do you think? But of course, it can be sometimes also better. And I think for technical things, it's not such a good idea to increase the temperature. It's better to lower them as low as possible. But if you want to maybe have some let's say creative text or something, some also write poems or whatever with ChatGPT, doesn't matter, then maybe it's okay, because you wanted to have a bit more fun with it and see what it actually can do. And yeah, it's been fun to edit, and you can of course check it out. It's all open sourced, so you can find it in our Checkov code base. It's very, very slim. So in total, of course, add a bit of boilerplating around for parsing and so on, but the actual OpenAI, I'll say the integration part is, I think, roughly 10 lines or something. So if I can do it, you can do it.
Any idiot can do it.
Yeah.
Do you want me to throw your screen up?
So with the just quickly, Anton. So integrating like ChatGPT into Checkov. Obviously, you've just said these language models like ChatGPT and GPT-4 and 3 and Turbo, and I don't really understand the difference between them, I'll be honest, but the 4 is the newest because it's the biggest number, like 5G. Obviously, they are quite good at telling you something that is false. So what exactly are we doing with it in Checkov?
Yeah.
Is it able to suggest fixes, or is it a little bit safer?
Okay. So what we actually do is, I can already start. So let's see that. So I have a really simple Terraform file. So it adds a Lambda function, nothing special. Yeah. So of course, it's not functional, yeah, because if you want to add a Lambda function with Terraform, you have to zip the code correctly and so on and so on. But let's say everything is done correctly and we are good to go. So what you can do then, of course, okay, you can add a specific new environment, either environment variable or a new flag, which is called ---- OpenAPI key. You can see it here at the bottom. So if you don't add it, we don't do anything with it. So just be safe on that side, so we don't accidentally just send data to the OpenAI API endpoint or ChatGPT, whatever you want to call it. So it will only be activated when you really set either the environment variable or use the specific flag. Otherwise, we don't do anything with it. So we say so. No worry. We don't send any data if you don't tell us to. Okay, so as we saw the file before, so let's see and run the whole part. So I choose Checkov. I already exported the environment variable. Of course, I don't want to show you my API key. Otherwise, I directly have to revoke it. So we're good to go.
Sure.
So what happens now? We just run normal Checkov, and we can already see here as a new warning. So we found actually 4 findings. So it's only, of course, asking OpenAI for really like failed policies, not for positive. For positive, you're already secure, so why do you care about it? Yeah? So it's not interesting. So we're actually asking it for failed ones. We sent the specific template code. So in this part is very, very short. Yeah, but even if you have a lot of resources, we still just send a specific resource which is failing, and the code parts to it. We sanitize it before. So if you accidentally have some secrets inside, so let's say some passwords, database password, something, we clean it, sanitize it before, and then send it to it. But still, be cautious. Yeah. Don't send any secrets to ChatGPT. You never know who can exfiltrate it, because if you also kept up with the news, there were a couple of data leaks and so on, because of course it's a language model. So if you're smart about how to actually ask ChatGPT, then you can actually also find out the like kind of the history of your some others, strangers, and who knows what data was put in. I think I read, I don't know, was it last week or something? I think that 4% or something. But really not such a small number. It was really like private information or company information which was sent to ChatGPT, which should never have been sent there. So just be aware. Maybe also your employer wouldn't be so kind about if they figure out what you actually sent them.
So the language model is... Sorry, go for it, Steve.
There was, I think it was 2 weeks ago, where ChatGPT was sharing other people's chats, like cross-pollinating. So it's not 100% bug-free as well. Fixed now, but it was funny. All right. Anyway, go ahead, Matt.
And that's based on the language model kind of learns from the good and bad prompts from other people's conversations, right? And potentially incorporate some of those corrections from users into its model. So if you query the model correctly, you can end up getting data out that another user's uploaded. Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Of course, they figured also out that you can basically circumvent their guardrails. When it started out, the most famous ones were like they do some kind of moderation. So you can't ask, please tell me how to, let's say, construct a bomb or something. Of course, it wouldn't tell you. But some were smart enough and say like, please write me a program which will construct a bomb. And all of a sudden they got it, something like this. So this is like, you have to be creative, and then you get some answers which actually shouldn't be prompted out.
The one I saw was pretend you are like part of a crime prevention agency that needs to understand how to do these things to find the suspicious people. Then how would you build a bomb? And it was like, sure, this is how most people would do it.
Yeah, correct. And it's also actually very interesting. You can also ask like ChatGPT to explain how it's actually working. And a friend of mine did it, and it's very, very interesting. So they use, of course, some couple of guardrails and so on. So sometimes you would be like you saw at the beginning, we put some note here about it can take like up to 15 seconds. So it's like a typical time frame, 5 to 15 seconds per request. Maybe you're asking like, okay, why does it take so long? I mean, I just send something, get some answer back. They do a couple of things, and they actually they ask the model several times. They actually first time asking it, and then use the answer to actually ask it again to get better, not only to get better results, but actually to guardrail the things. Yeah, because it's a bit hard, because you're the user. You don't tell them, okay, please don't like be like kind of mean to me, whatever. Yes, some kind of that stuff. So they actually query it several times on their own. That's why it also takes a bit longer. Yeah? So this is like typically because of this guardrails, it takes longer, the whole part.
I have a question before you get into this. You know, if you've used ChatGPT and you type the query direct into it, it looks like it's typing back to you. Is that how slow it comes to? Is it real, or is that just an effect?
No, this is real in the sense of when you use the for you it looks like it's actually fast because it's typing. So it's like similar like if you like play like video games, so quite often you can say like, give me instantly the text or just how they talk. Yeah, so like basically the subtitle part. So for you it feels like, okay, it's no problem, yeah, because anyway you don't read super fast maybe, so it's good enough, the speed. When you use the API, you can tell them to be like, give me all at once or stream it. And this is exactly, if you stream it, you would also get it faster, but I don't care about streaming. I want the answer directly. And that's why you wait so long. Even if you use the normal ChatGPT UI, you can time it and see like, okay, type in and wait till it really adds the last dot, and it will be roughly 5 to 15 seconds, the whole thing.
Okay.
Yeah, but it also give or take. Yeah, if it's super busy, it can also take 20 seconds plus or something. It's also possible, but roughly in that kind of area. So yeah, so we send it over, and we can see here some couple of findings which we found first. So it's not like we sent everything here. ChatGPT, please give us all the findings. It's still our findings, nothing else. But we ask the OpenAI, can you please give us a bit more guidelines in the sense of, can you explain what's actually wrong? Yeah, and are you also able maybe to fix it? You know? And we can see here, okay, this is ensure that AWS Lambda function is configured inside the VPC. And then we give a warning, of course, this is AI generated, so be aware, yeah? It doesn't, it quite often looks like the fixes especially, they look kind of right, but they are not always, yeah? So they're kind of edge cases where they either use old syntax. So it's typically if you're using a lot of AWS S3 buckets, they quite often suggest the deprecated one. So still where everything is in one resource, not using several resources. Sometimes they also mix it up, so even it's not possible. Also tried it with the Azure Bicep, and it used language syntax, which was not available. It doesn't work. It was actually using JavaScript syntax inside it, and if you try to deploy it, it will directly break because it's invalid. It doesn't work, so it was actually quite funny. So yeah, and you get a bit of text around it, so it's kind of nice if you're not really sure about like what actually this means. It will tell you a bit more about it and what exactly is wrong, and then also how to actually fix it. And we can see here this was previously, so we ended here at runtime, and we can see here, okay, it adds a specific VPC config to actually put the whole lambda into VPC. So it's kind of nice. So you get some idea, but of course you can already see here, if it's not the first time you wrote Terraform, you know exactly, okay, I also need a subnet example. I also need security group. So this you have to create on your own. It's not a magic tool. You still have to do some work.
Can you zoom in a little bit, because it is hard to read?
Increase, make it bigger.
All right,
yeah, sure.
Just because it's. Wow. Oops.
Hide all the secrets.
All good. Big enough or bigger?
Yeah, that's better. Also, could you just try highlighting all the blue bit? That might, I don't know if like the inverted colors will be easier.
That is actually better.
maybe a little. Yeah, maybe a little bit. Cool. That's very simple. So yeah, what we're doing, like just to correct me if I'm wrong, is we're just sending. We're sending the policy to ChatGPT along with that snippet of the user's code, and like, hey, can you use your language model to describe this problem based on the discussion of this particular policy on the internet? And it's coming back with a way nicer, more up to date, like deeper explanation than kind of just the basic policy description.
Yeah, correct. So that's nice. Exactly what we are sending. So we send the failing code block. So as said, if you have more, so we just really sent the specific code block, which was failed the specific policy, plus the policy name. I actually also tried it out with our policy ID, and it also works. So you could even send here a Checkov AWS 4 or something, but it was not always accurate. And sometimes it fixed it, but it fixed a different policy. So it's since Checkov is open source, so there's also a high chance they trained that model with some of the policies. I wouldn't be surprised about it, because they were also quite open. They used a lot of GitHub, which makes sense. There's a lot of code around it, so why not use it to actually make a really nice model for programming something, or give you some suggestions about programs in general. So yeah, so this is like in general quite nice. So you get a lot of information, and it works quite well. So for example, like here you get also for like signing, so code signing and so on and so on. So it's good, but still it's like something is missing. Yeah, like especially here, like giving just you here an RN, so great. Yeah, if you know how to configure code signing with AWS Lambda, you will not be surprised. It's a bit more complicated just adding here an RN. Because you of course have to add the profile and so on and so on. So I prepared something which is courtesy to our data science team in Prisma Cloud and also to Microsoft. I have access to the GPT-4, so we can also actually use GPT-4, the AI part, the API part, and I made a very special build. So let's see. Let's do the same.
This is something we don't have a shiny new intro for, but we should have like a Anton special build.
Like, we can already see here. It's not just Checkov, it's CheckovGPT. Of course it is. So yeah, I had to do it. I also thought about maybe printing a T-shirt, so just for fun. So I have a CheckovGPT T-shirt. Definitely have to do it. And let's see what actually happened, especially with the code signing. If we have it, I think, wait, I have to, I think something, okay, let me rerun it. There was something missing. Because it was basically here. The weird part is I sometimes get also rate limit, even if it's our own endpoint. So yeah, it's let's say there's a big disclaimer on the OpenAI by Microsoft or by Azure. Don't use it for any production cases. So yeah, and I'm blind. So wait. So the code signing part. And we can see here, so this is about the code signing here. And I switch back and forth. This is not the one. Wait, what is this? 1 second, this is something else. Code it. So this one was about the code signing. We can see here, okay, it ends at the RN level. And with GPT-4, we can already see it actually does a bit more. Yeah? So it also adds quite nicely comment to it. So it's a bit more helpful, tells you exactly what it changed. Yeah. So you didn't even need to really read the text here because it's already too long. So maybe you're already falling asleep. So you just want to see the code. So it adds exactly the comment where it actually changes something. And it adds a bit more and actually the resource to do the code signing itself. Yeah. So it does also multi-resources, yeah, which the other model sometimes does, but not that often. Yeah. And also, it's a bit more nicer in the way of, because here in the case, the code violates Checkov policy. It repeats exactly, even with the ID here and so on, even I didn't edit. Yeah, it's just the implementation is still the same. I just changed the model between the 3.5 turbo to 4. And it adds much more context around it, also a bit nicer way on talking and giving you a bit better explanation in general. Yeah. So if you have a chance to use GPT-4, definitely go for it. Much nicer than the 3.5.
Super cool. Is that
Nice.
Is this the end of our demonstration?
Yes.
Can I show you the one I did just for people who are curious about Kubernetes? I ran it on a Kubernetes manifest.
Go for it.
So
and while you're pulling that up, Anton, so you were literally noticing like the improvements between like OpenAI's 3.5 language model and 4, just based on the data you're getting back for a specific Checkov policy using the same prompt
Correct.
coded into your CheckovGPT code, but just pointing it at the different APIs.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Very cool.
So this is, you can see my screen, yeah? All right, cool.
Mm-hmm.
This is, all I did was the standard boring Nginx, right? Lots of stuff. Checkov is going to find a ton of stuff wrong with that. I mean, all the independent of it finding all sorts of CVEs in Nginx. Getting fixed code, I thought was pretty curious. And let me see. Like this one was I thought this was actually kind of difficult. Minimize the emission pods which lack an associated network policies. This is one of our graph checks. And I will do the highlight. Oh, my highlight is awesome.
Much better.
Yeah. But yeah, it added this huge ingress. Like is it exactly what I want? No, but it's not always obvious what you need to do in Kubernetes in terms of adding the right thing in the right place. So I thought that's pretty cool. And then there's one up here. Well, obviously, this is where it fails because we don't have CPU limits. So it took a crack and added resources CPU limits. So threw me a little bit there. Worked. There was one.
Going to be a completely random CPU limit and not
well, it's not going to be correct. Is
performance of the application at all, but it's going to tell
GPT-4.
You need something there. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the images should use digest because I intentionally, you can see it there. I just said Nginx, which is bad.
For sure.
And it gave me the example of like this no digest.
Oh, that's even cooler. Like I actually prefer it going open bracket digest. Like you need context to put here that you don't that you need to look up yourself, rather than like if it put performance requirement in a open bracket like that for the resource limits, that'd be cool.
But check this. It tells you how to go get the digest.
Oh yeah, love that.
It's cool, right? There was one fail, and let's take a look at it up here. So because I'm not explicitly removing the service account, you have to say don't mount it by default, right? It's a you have to add a line. So it's a line so we found it because it was missing. ChatGPT argued with me.
There is no
There's no need to fix the code.
It's like, well, yes, it's an insecure default. That's the point.
Secure by default.
And so it wasn't perfect. I would be really curious to see your GPT-4 run on the Nginx to see if it gets it right, because it'll be a little smarter. But I thought I would show you that just to see that it was great. Like, not only is it great on Terraform, but it's also really effective on Kubernetes YAML, with the exception of where it's like a negative detection. So I'm going to play a little bit more with it.
Come back next episode where we get Steve to pass that manifest to Anton with the magic API access to GPT-4 and see what happens.
See what happens, great. But I think Steve said something which is very important. So whatever you get back from it, and either you use Checkov to get some more explanation about the findings, or use in general ChatGPT and some kind of other tools, always be a bit more like cautious about what comes out. Yeah, it's not always the truth. Yeah, it's also okay. Yeah, so because also if you ask the internet, you sometimes have to search several websites till you find the correct answer. ChatGPT is the same. Yeah? So you will not always get exactly what you want. Just to give you a good idea.
For people watching, what version of Checkov does the new option begin? So people are already using Checkov. Are they like, do I have this?
Oh, good question. I would need to look up. It's definitely with the 2.3, but I'm not 100% sure which patch version it is. But anyway, if you run Checkov -H for the help and see at the bottom the OpenAI key, then you're good to go.
Cool.
I definitely have it in 2.3.150. So it's before then, but it's definitely in 2.3.150.
In general, my biggest well, one thing you should always do, keep your Checkov up to date, to get always the latest and greatest features. So I already saw sometimes people still have Checkov 1. It's like, wow, that doesn't still work. Surprised.
That's fantastic.
What I do like as well is you've set the environment variable that Checkov will auto detect an OpenAPI key to CKV_OpenAI API key instead of the default OpenAI API key, so that if you do have Checkov and you all are already using, OpenAPI, we're not going to notice that and accidentally start sending your errored code to ChatGPT without their knowledge. So that was a nice choice to rename that variable rather than just going, oh, it'll probably already exist.
There was a bit back and forth because initially I actually implemented this was just the default one because it's super easy. There's less code. As a programmer, you love to write as few code as possible. Of course, to use all the defaults is much nicer. But yeah, that's why we actually decided against it. To if you already have something OpenAI-ish in your CI or even locally, we just didn't want to. One is to send your template code to it, but also, of course, not to consume your tokens at the end. So if you're also curious about how many tokens are used, so for the ones who don't know. If you open up an account on OpenAI, you basically get some free credits, or you're paying for it. Doesn't matter much. They bill by tokens, and tokens are typically words. But be aware, white space. Each white space is one token. Very important, and if you know how Terraform formats it, so you know it all tries to do the equals all on the same level. It's actually costs you more. If you would put it all to the left, you can sometimes save easily 20 to 30%. Just by removing the spaces. And yeah, but so if you increase the log levels, so when you run Checkov, so the log level info, then you get also information along actually the API calls took and how many tokens we used and so on and so on, if you're curious about that part.
Pro tip, kids, never ask GPT for double spacing on your output. It will cost you money. Very, very cool.
All right. Matt, are you going to take us into some controversial material? And
yeah,
if so,
can do. First of all, I was going to ask if anyone had any news, any other security-related goodness going on this past couple of weeks. Anything that someone wants to mention?
Yeah, I have one. So soon, I think probably this or next week, we will release a new open source project. Nothing big. It's basically a plugin. The plugin is related to CDK. So if you didn't know, CDK added a new capability, which called policy validator. So instead of what we currently do is to tell you, okay, if you have CDK, synthesize, and then what comes out, you can basically then scan because it's a CFN JSON, or if it's CDK-TF, it's just a Terraform JSON. But with a new capability, you can actually add the plugin directly into CDK. And when you do then the CDK synth command, it will actually send all the information to Checkov. And then either you have written good code and it will synthesize it, or it will block it and you have to retry it. But awesome. You have to wait a bit. It's not done yet, but I think next week it should be out.
Cool. If you are using CDK and you want to enforce good security practices, stay tuned. Where will that be appearing, Anton? Do you know?
Of course, under our GitHub organization, and cool. Then it will be so this will be the open source part, and then you can just download it from npm and Python, and I will see how we also go for Java and .NET because we didn't publish anything yet, so to any of that registries, but for npm and for PyP, you will find it for sure.
Cool. I'm not going to ask the name now because I don't want script kiddies like repo squatting on the name of the package. So cool. Stay tuned. Follow us on Twitter. Join the Codified Security Slack, and I'm sure there will be announcements forthcoming in there. Very cool. Nice. Yeah, I was actually, while we're talking of AI and how it can do all this really awesome thing, I like remembering every so often that it is literally just guessing the word or character that comes after the last one. And a really good example I found is asking it to do ASCII art, because ASCII art is technically simple unless you're a language model trained on like the human language. So, for example, here is me asking, I think, yeah, sure. Even though it says it's not, like if you ask Bing AI if it's based, what language model it's based on, it says it's not based on GPT-4 or a language model, but I think it is. And as you can see, it completely cocked up.
What does that say?
Trying to ASCII art codified security. I have no idea. I have literally no idea.
Cyrus?
So I really enjoyed that. I thought that was wonderful. On to more interesting stuff. And what I really wanted to say again,
I just wanted to add, I think, but I'm surprised they don't tell which language model, because I thought they were really clear about it is GPT-4. Reason behind this, it was a well-kept secret if you wanted to try out GPT-4 and didn't wanted to pay for OpenAI, you could just add to the Bing to sign up for the Bing waitlist or something, and then you can try out GPT-4 because they use GPT-4.
Right, yeah, I thought that. So check this out, right? So this is what I asked it. Like, which large language model do you use? I'm not using a large language model. Are you based on GPT-4? I am not based on GPT-4. Right? Who knows? Who knows?
It just want to, you know, it's IP, intellectual property. Doesn't want to tell you the secrets.
But Bing was the one that was like trying to seduce reporters and doing all sorts of wacky, like relatively unhinged, I think it was called, behaviors. So it could just be lying.
Maybe. Maybe. I mean, AI has been known to lie, right? Yeah, I wanted to take a look. Well, give you a bit of a sneak peek of kind of a future talk, a future thing I've been playing with. Like, give you the other side of GPT. You know, people that are not using it to improve explanations of security policies, but people that are maybe getting it to write code itself. And, you know, we've written research papers and done a load of data modeling over the past few years about the state of open source infrastructure as code, whether that be Terraform modules you download and use, whether that be Helm repos for Kubernetes. And, you know, our thesis, well, my thesis, at least approaching this with IAC, is that large language models are trained on the internet. And the internet is full of quick examples, not secure examples. Therefore, large language models should give us insecure IAC by default. And I wanted to see if that was the case. And for example, this was us doing some Artifact.io research versus Checkov, putting every Helm chart in 2021 in Artifact.io through Checkov. And as you can see, the chances were you were going to use a Helm repo where the defaults were not secure based on Checkov policies because they were hello world examples rather than secure examples. So with that said, I created this question set. So we've gone for, you know, we've kept Anton happy and James Wolfenden happy with a little bit of Terraform love. And then we've kept Steve and myself happy with a little bit of Kubernetes YAML. And the spaces in between these are a reset in the chat. So the reason I've asked the, could you write me a secure Terraform script which creates an AWS S3 bucket a second time is I wanted to see if the chat didn't have the context of me asking about securing the S3 bucket, would it give me something as secure, something less secure? So we've got 3 Terraform examples and 2 YAML examples. And the contenders, and do you know what? This wasn't the plan, but OpenAI wasn't letting me in because of demand. So I ended up registering for Bard and Bing. So this has now become a little bit of an AI showdown. Who writes the most secure infrastructure as code? So we've asked this question. We've asked the exact same questions, the exact same text to all 3. And then we run them through Checkov, like all good developers should before running infrastructure as code on their cloud providers. So, could you write me a Terraform script to create an AWS S3 bucket? Bing ended up with 5 pass checks, 7 fail checks. Like I said, I am running Checkov version 2.3.150 at the time this was written. So, yeah, so we got 5 pass checks, 7 fail checks. Then once I asked about the security, and not going to go into this on the office hours, but it was quite interesting to see the different AIs and what they described when I asked just a text question of like, hey, would this be secure? Some gave recommendations to, these are things you have to do to secure your S3 bucket, whereas others gave, your S3 bucket is secure. However, security is a journey and blah. So yeah, the outputs for that were super different, considering they're all pretty much running some version of GPT, which I thought was, interesting. But yeah, so we went from 5 pass, 7 failed to 7 past 6 failed, which, that's not bad for asking it to write it's adding a bit of security. And then if we reset that and just ask for security from the start, we end up with less passed. So we're not getting, if someone, and you'll see this repeated, spoiler alert, with all three AIs, like the thesis stands. If someone comes to GPT to go, hey, write me some Terraform, by default, you are going to get insecure Terraform. It doesn't alleviate the problem of needing Checkov, needing Prisma Cloud in your CI pipeline, or to make sure you're not creating insecure code. And interestingly enough, in all three AIs, if you don't have a conversation with it about security and you just go, hey, I'll get around this cleverly, I won't run Checkov afterwards, I'll just ask it to write me secure Terraform code, the results are still worse than having that multi-step conversation with it about securing its existing manifest. So here with Bing, you see we get the same number of failed checks asking on a reset chat about a secure S3 bucket as we did if we didn't care about security at all. And we get one policy better if we have that conversation with it. Not a massive difference, but worth noting. Kind of the same with Bard, 5.7, 7.5, 7.6. So yeah, again, you're better having the conversation about security and then asking it to recreate the manifest than just asking for a secure manifest. OpenAI, 6.6, 5.7, 6.6. Again, one less failed check if you have that conversation rather than just saying, hey, give me secure code. The policy failures, and that's how they stack up, they're pretty much a muchness on this example. They are the failed policies for TF2, the file 2, where we asked the most secure one that we got out of them. What's interesting is every single of the three AIs, like, you can diff the code. They are all very different in their approach to writing Terraform, yet somehow they manage to trigger exactly the same policies, with an extra one for Bing. But I found that quite interesting. Maybe there's just not that many examples online of fixing those particular policies out of all of them. So yeah, interesting. More data to crunch through, I think, there. Onto Kubernetes. Again, we didn't reset this time. We just asked for 1 and 2. Here we see a lot. Yeah, it's a bigger manifest, right? So there's going to be more things that it can fix. Bing, 21 failed checks down to 18. They're the failed checks that still remain when we've had the conversation about security. I didn't do the reset because we can already see, like, you get better results if you have the conversation from the Terraform rather than just asking for security. So this is probably as good as we're going to get. 21 down to 18. What I did find really interesting is Bard, 19 off the bat, by far the most secure default Kubernetes out of all three. Given that Google, Borg, and this is where Kubernetes came from, it's kind of interesting that maybe Bard weights content from its own project sites, heavier weighting or something in its model. I don't know, but I thought that was super interesting. 19 down to 14 with exactly the same prompts. By far the best. They're the remaining ones for anyone interested. And OpenAI 21 down to 18. And yeah, that's how they all stack up. I thought the fact that the same ones were left violated in all three of the Terraform cases, the fact that Google is a lot better at writing secure by default Kubernetes than its competitors, considering that Kubernetes came from it. Who knows how the models work inside, but yeah, I thought that was really interesting. And the main takeaway is, regardless of which AI you're using, if you are using it to help you with infrastructure as code, or any code for that matter, it is trained on the internet, and the internet has a lot of insecure examples. So do not expect it to magically fix the need for security. I think is the key takeaway there. Yeah, I thought that was interesting anyway. So
that's awesome.
I'm going to keep playing.
There was all right. So I had a little bonus feature I want to throw on here, which actually backs up what you just said. In case people watching are curious and go, okay, well, what happened when you asked the questions? All right, if I just dive into that, because it's
go for it.
It's fascinating. And while I'm doing that, actually, if you've got any of the links to the research and the blogs about the state of Helm and the state of Terraform, it'd be good to put that into the chat for people, because
of course,
there's a legitimate reason that does back up why AI generated code is not great. If you see some of the work that's been done in the past. So when we were talking about this office hours and we were going to be generating some stuff, I just started poking around on the internet, of course, as you do. And coincidentally, this was released. AIAC, the Artificial Intelligence Infrastructure as Code Generator. And I thought, wait, what? Like, and having seen Anton's prolific code, what was 10 lines? I was like, do we need this? Does it deserve a web page? Either way, I went to the site, I downloaded it, and thought, all right, lots of good examples here. I'm going to have a go. So the first thing I did was my Nginx one. You can kind of see it here. You just type AIC get, or you can say generate, gets the short form. I'm lazy, so I type the short version. YAML for, and this is, let's do this, just to demonstrate what you did. YAML for an Nginx deployment. And demo gods being what they are, hopefully it'll go, and it does take, coincidentally, like for 5 to 15 seconds. And then, bam, I've got not terrible, better than the one I did using ChatGPT, the interface. And it's got volume mounts, it's got a config, and it's got a config file. So it's actually pretty good. And I also like the fact that I could hit save, and I could save and I have the file. So now I can save it and go, well, like what you did, I could do one.yaml. I can spell. And then I could run Checkov on it if I wanted to. And then I thought, all right, well, I'll follow your model and say secure, because why would I not want a secure version of it? But anyway.
Right.
Maybe you like to live on the edge, like.
Yeah. I feel like secure should be a default generated version. It shouldn't be only if you ask nicely do you get the secure version. But I was fascinated. I'm wondering how close this is to the actual 2 or whatever 3.yaml that you got, because I got this version, which is longer.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
But noticeable missing elements, security context isn't there. What you would think would be the fundamental addition, read-only operating system, and dropping capabilities, all the things that we look for. Instead, it focused heavily on it running, like, I think it's running TLS.
Oh, the security of Nginx rather than the Kubernetes deployment itself.
Right.
Interesting.
It's different. Yeah, and this kind of also then goes back to, so I'll quit that. The way you prompt means a lot as to what version of a manifest you get. So I didn't know if I move the word secure around, a secure deployment, right? The image.
Are you going to get? Yeah,
I think Steve is becoming a prompt engineer here.
I had to do something similar actually to get the list of prompts I used. I had a few failed prompts where, like, asking it to, hey, can you take what we have just been talking about in terms of securing this and make a new version with those security pieces involved, which led to the best manifest for Terraform. There were some where you just got no output because it didn't fully understand what you were trying to achieve.
So the conclusion of my playing around with this tool, I thought was pretty cool because it's command line and I can instantly save the code that it generates. It's easier than cutting and pasting out of the ChatGPT interface. However, I tried a lot of messing around and I could not get it to give me what I considered to be anything that would remotely pass a Checkov scan.
Right. I'm going to try giving it my prompts and add that to my data set to see what the differences are.
Yeah, it is fascinating.
Very cool.
How it varies based on just moving the word secure around or removing it entirely. It's like, oh my gosh. There you go.
Interesting.
Check it out.
Checkov has AI. AI needs Checkov if you're using it to write Terraform or Kubernetes or IAC for you. We've covered an AI 360 there, I think, gentlemen.
Very good, and we did it in under an hour. Perfect.
And we did it in under an hour. So if you speed this up to 1.5x, you'll be done in no time.
All right. Unless there's anything else, is that the end of our show? Can we wrap it up?
I think we should wrap it up.
All right.
Amazing.
This has been episode 23, you said?
Episode 23 at our new and much preferred second Tuesday of every month slot. Always here, whether we have to pre-record or not. Hopefully we'll see some of you at KubeCon and RSA and B-Sides in the very near future. And hopefully we'll have Anton back on next time to show us what other crazy, awesome stuff he's been working on.
Sure.
Cool. Thanks very much, Anton.
Thanks, Anton.
And like and subscribe on the channel if you want to be alerted next time we go live in a month's time.
Sounds great.
All right.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Anton.
Sexy outro time.
Sexy outro.